Carlos Rodon had a UCL tear a couple of years ago. Tommy John, he was out for a full year. His left forearm is connected to his UCL. What we've heard Carlos Rodon in the interview, he says it's not something that he's worried about. The Yankees and Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman said it's not something they're worried about. But when you hear forearm, you think of the elbow. Now, being out for a month might be better than pushing him through or trying to figure out when he can come back as quick as possible. The Yankees don't need him back early in the season. Their rotation is still pretty strong with Luis Severino and Nestor Cortez and Garrett Cole, Domingo Germán, Schmidt. They still have a lot of depth. But before the season, we were talking about the Yankees having the best rotation in baseball, where Frankie Montas is your fifth starter. Now Frankie Montas might not be back until the end of the season in like August or September. Carlos Rodon might not start as a New York Yankee until at the end of April, May. As a Yankee fan, you definitely got a deal making that move for Carlos Rodon. $27 million a year for one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. 6 years, 29-year-old left-hander. Left-handers, they don't grow on trees. They're very hard to find. And the Yankees have two good ones. But to lose arguably your best pitcher now, he's probably the Yankees' best pitcher because Garrett Cole is not one of those pressure pitchers we've seen in the last couple of years for the New York Yankees. I think Carlos Rodon is that type of player that can go on the mound, shut out everybody, and do what he does best, and that's just completely rake people on the pitching mound.
And you look at Carlos Rodon the last couple years, after the Tommy John surgery, he was relatively healthy, and that's why I was thinking he was going to get more money than he did in the offseason. When the Yankees gave him $27 million a year, it seemed like an absolute bargain. Now, I don't think this injury is that concerning. He'll miss a month. That's probably for a starting pitcher 3, maybe 4 starts.
He has no spring training, Speedy, so that means that's 2 weeks that he is going to have to be in the minors.
The Yankees, I think the mistake they made, though, was trying to bring him out in that spring training game, too, because Carlos Rodon also mentioned that he felt discomfort in the warm-ups, too. So there was no reason to try to force it at that point. I don't know if Carlos Rodon didn't say anything or if the Yankees training staff didn't notice anything because he was getting shelled by the Braves pretty quickly. I would blame the Yankees medical staff for that more and maybe some of the front office guys. But maybe Carlos Rodon didn't even say anything and he just pitched through it anyway. He said it was an issue he had in the past, but still, that's something that I think the Yankees could have been a little more cautious with. He'll only miss a month. You're right. How quickly will he start up is another question, especially with a new team. A lot of tough hitters, ballparks in that American League East, depending on who he plays in that month of May right away. Now, the schedule is different where they're going to play the teams a little less frequently in the division, but they're still going to play him a lot. And the big wild card or anything, is he built for New York? I think he's good. I wanted him for the Mets.
Oh, he's definitely built for New York. The question is this going to be a problem all season long? When you hear elbow problems or forearm problems, that usually means that this could be a continuing injury throughout the season. You look at what Max Scherzer dealt with this year with the New York Mets. He had that lat problem. It started early in the season, and then it came back in the middle of the season, and then it came back at the end of the season. When this is your throwing arm, it should worry you as a Yankee fan. He could come back, and he might not have any more discomfort for the rest of the season. Frankie Montas, the Yankees made a trade for. They gave up 3 top pitching prospects for him. And then you really didn't get much out of him last year because he was never 100% healthy. That has a lot to do with the Yankees. When they scouted him, gave him a physical, they should have noticed that there was something wrong with his shoulder. It just didn't happen when he went to the Yankees. This has been going on since he was with the Oakland Athletics. You're going to lose a year with Frankie Montas, a guy that you had control over, and then you have to pay him. The Yankees, they're in a position to must win this year. They were the best team in the American League before these injuries. If Frankie Montas comes back, if the Yankees make a couple of trades at the trade deadline, this roster is good as any roster right now in the American League, including the Astros. But pitching is what wins. And without Rodon, they're going to be put in a bad position if they're matched up against the Astros, the young Seattle Mariners, even the Cleveland Guardians.
Almost beat him last year in 5 games.
With that pitching staff, they need Frankie Montas to come back at the end of the season. They need Carlos Rodon to stay healthy for the rest of the season if they have any shot to winning the first World Series since 2009.
Yeah, and you mentioned those 3 teams. The Astros and the Guardians especially are both pitching factories. When somebody gets hurt or somebody gets traded, they usually have somebody waiting in the wings. You could replace them well. Now, the Yankees have done that to an extent with relief pitchers, but a lot of them have been 1 year, 2 year, and then they'll fall off. This guy like Adam Ottavino. When Adam Ottavino came to the Yankees, he was bad the first year. Then he was good. Then he was bad. Same kind of thing with their young pitchers last year. Clark Schmidt had some good moments. Was he consistently great all year? Still to be determined. Michael King was great until he got hurt.
Michael King is special.
The Astros have done it where they've lost veteran pitchers and they had a preparation. They had a plan B right away. And the Yankees are going to have to find that system this year.